Hey everyone, welcome to the next video in my Seeing Glass Beginner series. Today we will be going through the glass grinding process. This step is important because after cutting the glass, it can be very jagged and sharp. You may not have the exact shape you need, or maybe there are curves in the design that you couldn't cut out, so grinding will fix those issues, as well as prep the glass for the next step, which is copper foiling. This is the grinding machine that I use. It's from Amazon, and when looking for a grinder, you want to make sure it's one that has a water reservoir, and this specific one also has a self-watering bit, so it automatically pulls water up to the surface. You never want to grind glass without water. It creates a lot of dust, which is the main thing you want to avoid, but it can also crack the glass. Before we start, it's helpful to have a reference pattern to lay all the pieces on throughout the step. This way you can make sure you have the exact shapes you need and that everything fits together nicely. I like to tape over the front of the pattern to protect the paper from getting wet. Make sure to wear safety glasses, and I also wear gloves. These are just disposable ones, but I've started wearing my nitro-coated gloves over the top of these to protect my hands more. I would definitely recommend some cut-resistant gloves that are well-fitted. Those would be a lot better. And you can wear a mask if you want to, but there should never be any dust if you're using enough water. So that is up to you. With all that, we are ready to start. The first thing you want to do is run the entire piece along the bit just to get rid of any really sharp edges and points. That way when you focus on grinding one side, your fingers aren't digging into a really sharp edge. You want to push the glass against the bit and slowly move it along. Grind up to the edge of your pattern, careful not to take away too much. This is the reason I like to use stickers for my pattern. If you haven't tried this method, I definitely recommend it. Look for either a waterproof sticker paper, I have the exact one that I've used linked in the description, or a removable vinyl. Both of them are good options for making pattern stickers. It makes the process a lot smoother because these do not move when grinding. The water doesn't make them come off, so you can work precisely and get the perfect shape from the start. I don't have to go back and forth checking the reference sheet as much as I did when I just glued paper onto the glass. Another thing that the stickers are good for is iridescent glass. The coating can sometimes chip off the edges when grinding, but the stickers do help minimize it, so that's a little tip to keep in mind. Let's talk a little more about the grinding bit. It can be removed, of course, so you can switch to a new one or different sizes. The first thing that I will say is to always remove the bit when it's not in use. I never did that, so it's completely stuck. I can't take it off and switch it out, so I will unfortunately have to buy a new grinder at some point. But if you notice that it's not grinding the glass as well anymore, you can just adjust the bit up or down to an area that hasn't been used. Here you can see what I do since I don't have that option. I just hold the glass up and also use a spray bottle to make sure it consistently has water. It's not super ideal, but it works fine. As for how long bits last and when you should get a new one, I don't have an exact answer. I've been using the same bit for about a year and a half now, and it's still getting the job done. But I will say it shouldn't take much force for it to grind, and if it does, it's probably time to get a new one. This is what the glass should look like after grinding, a nice smooth matte edge. This is another reason why grinding is an important step when it comes to using copper foil. The foil will stick a lot better to this rather than a shiny glass edge, which will add more strength to the final piece. I'll talk a little bit about my workspace. I don't have a dedicated space just for stained glass. I only work at my desk. This is where I do everything. For glass grinding, I just lay a towel underneath the grinder and that's all I do, but something I've seen if you have a larger workspace is to get either a clear storage bin or an aquarium tank, turn it on its side and place the grinder in that so that the water is contained that way. But regardless, make sure to always wipe down the area after this step. Moving on to some maintenance for the grinding machine, other than removing the bit when you're not using it, really the only thing you need to do is clean it out. I don't do this right after the grinding is done. I leave the water in there for a few days, let the water evaporate, and then scrape out the glass remnants. I sometimes don't even clean it out until the next time I use it, although I would recommend that you clean it out when it's still slightly damp. That way the dust doesn't get everywhere when you scrape it out. And another important thing, don't pour the water into a sink. If you want to pour it out, just make sure that it's outside. The remaining glass is basically just sand at this point. So I think I covered everything that I wanted to mention. If you still have any questions or you have any other tips or advice, it is welcome in the comments, so let me know. I hope that you found this video helpful, and thank you for watching.